Well, when we were in college going to San Jose State University in California, um, we both worked at the pub on campus. So it was like pizza and sandwiches and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I'd worked there for a couple of years before I met him, and he worked in the morning and I worked at night. And so I didn't really know, who he was. And I saw him, and I thought, oh, he's kind of cute. So I asked another friend of mine who worked with us about him if he had a girlfriend or something like that. And so he didn't. So that's started to talk more, and anyway. He was really kind and generous, and he had a faith that I didn't have at that time, and that really attracted me to him. I didn't really realize it at the time, but in the journey, I noticed that was a big thing, that he believed in God, and I was struggling in my faith at the time, so it was an attraction that, again, I wasn't aware of. Well, at the time, I was not religious, so and guys that I had dated in high school and in college, I really wasn't. I didn't really care that much. I was kind of more superficial. That it just, if he's good looking, then and he's nice, and maybe buys me presents or something. Very superficial, and so. It wasn't until later on in our dating relationship that I wasn't really sure I believed in God at all, and so I was kind of having a crisis of believing, and he says to me, "Well, if you don't believe in God, I can't marry you." And I'm like, "What? I'm not the center of your universe?" It was just like shocking to me that someone could really believe in God that much that it would make that decision in their life. So it made me start to think, and I'm like, really? God's that important to you? Maybe I ought to kind of look into this God thing, And so that's when we started to pray together. His brother was in the Gulf War, and we started to pray, and that kind of that helped me out a lot. So yeah, and then eventually I realized the importance of being in the same faith when you're raising children, for sure. Definitely, I did feel that way. Um, in hindsight, I probably wasn't completely, again, because we didn't have great preparation, and but I was ready to be married and have that commitment, that lifelong commitment, and just really, having someone to love and cherish. To have that person in your life that is your best friend, that that you can talk to about anything, and you can feel that security. And even when you're going through difficult times, there's been times in our marriage that it's hard to talk about certain things, and we've learned, especially in recent years, how to get past that, and how to communicate better. I think that's one thing that we didn't really learn in the beginning, and then having children. About 2 years after we were married, we had our first son, and once the children start coming, the communication gets less, other than talking about the children. So I think it's important to make that time, at least once a week, with your spouse to talk about those things, so then you don't end up having more problems later on. We all annoy each other, so you know, it's learning to deny yourself and to put the other person first. So, because it's inevitable to have suffering. It's inevitable to have to get angry and argue, but so I think it's just self-denial that it's hard. It's a hard thing to give in and not have your way all the time, and that it's important in order to make the marriage work. When he proposed to me, we went up to this mountain, close to where there was snow. It was in December. There was snow on the mountain, and he got down on his knee and he proposed to me. And it was just a beautiful moment. And I was crying. I don't even know if I said I do. I'm not even sure that I would marry you. I'm not sure. But I was just like that joy at the beginning and the hope of the future. And I think that would be really neat to just like go back to that moment and just relive that again. It plays a bigger role than people really realize. And like I said, when I was younger, I didn't really see necessarily the benefit in that. I didn't understand that. But if I could share any of my wisdom, that really, I think that it does make a great difference, because when you're raising your children too, that's one less battle that you have to fight, because marriage is difficult. Again, it's a lot of self-denial, a lot of there's a lot to be fought about, finances and all that kind of stuff, but communication is key, and your faith life is definitely key. There's I don't know if I want to say the word comfortability, but I guess it's more comfortable in the sense that, I don't have any anxiety about him leaving me. Like in the beginning, sometimes I thought, oh no, did I do something wrong? Is he going to leave, or, something like that? And, I feel more secure, more that, and the love is different. It's not the giddy kind of love that you have in the beginning. And I do want to be with him. If I'm not with him all the time, I know he's still with me. We're together, and so there's no worry of that. You know what I mean? But sometimes you get like, if I'm not with you all the time and something's wrong, that's not the way it is. Just kind of like a security in knowing that he's there, and I'm there for him. And we've had a lot of difficulties in the past years with our adult children. It's harder. And just knowing that we're still together, and we're not going to give up. In the beginning, we weren't very good at that. We'll just say that. Kind of fly off the handle a little bit, or I wouldn't share what I was feeling, because I didn't want him to get mad at me. So, that's not healthy. It's not healthy for you not to share. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not good. It's bad for yourself. You need to be able to share that and be confident that you can share that. So, we talk about how the Trinity is most imaged in the family. The Father and the Son's love for each other is so intense that we have the Holy Spirit coming forth from that. So being with husband and wife, same with the children coming forth from that. And when I realized that we image God in communion, not by ourselves, that just really it changed my whole view of God. That He, when you say God is love, you can see that in the family. So it makes sense that to say God is love, and to be able to interiorize that and really understand it, because you are a part of the family, or because you are in in marriage, that you're bringing forth that new life from your love. So, and being part of that creative aspect of God, it's pretty amazing. I think a lot of it is feelings based. I think that because like I talked about with the faith aspect, that people don't think about necessarily the person, what their ultimate goal is, because our goal is heaven, and in marriage we're supposed to help our spouse and our children and other people by our witness to get to heaven as well. And so I think that because it is more feelings based and more sexual based, that it's more about great sex and a beautiful wife, or a hunk husband or something. It's more about the exterior stuff rather than the interior, and treating each other with the dignity that they deserve as a person. And then when things go wrong, because we have this instant gratification society, that if you don't get what you want when you want it, then oh, forget about it, right? So they're not willing to put in that effort to make it work. And it's hard. It can be hard work. Sometimes, I never really thought I would get divorced, but things cross your mind and say, can I deal with this anymore? Do I want to deal with this anymore? This is hard work. And if you don't have that faith component and shared, especially in common, that you both believe the same, at least in the same faith, that's hard. That's really hard, and I can see why people would give up. Being a witness of faith to other people and trying to help them as well. So I know that by having groups with other couples, that we've tried to encourage them. I have friends who have been on the verge of divorcing, mostly because the husband was involved with pornography, and that really hurt their marriage tremendously. And so you have to be able to be there to build each other up in the community. And being that we raised our children in the faith, and that we could be that witness to other people who may be struggling. Maybe they go to church, but their kids aren't involved, and our kids could be encouraging to their kids to be more involved in the church. And so just in the whole community, just to try to build people up and say, hey, it's hard, but you can do it. Try to be that encouraging people.